You're listening to the Effective Statistician Podcast, a weekly podcast with Alexander Schacht, Benjamin Pieske, and Sam Gardner, designed to help you reach your potential, lead great science, and serve patients without becoming overwhelmed by work. Today we are talking about how to start your week, which is really important, and you'll learn soon why this is important. So stay tuned, and now some music. I'm producing this podcast in association with PSI, an awesome community which is dedicated to leading and promoting the use of statistics across the healthcare industry for the benefit of patients. PSI offers quite a lot: webinars, video on demand, workshops, live events, all kind of different things, and of course the flagship conference, which is awesome and hopefully in 2022 comes live again in Gothenburg, Sweden. Head over to the PSI website at psiweb.org to learn more about PSI activities and become a PSI member today. Welcome to another episode of The Effective Statistician. This time it's again with Sam and myself. How are you doing, Sam?
Today's a great day. Looking forward to talking with you again. You know, a little bit behind the scenes, we don't record these podcasts just before they're published. We sometimes record them well in advance, and then we'll take a break. And we've had a little bit of a break recording. So it's really great to get together again and talk about some things that are fun to talk about and that we can share with others.
Yeah. And so today we'll talk a little bit about productivity hacks. And one of the important productivity hacks is how you actually start your week. So I learned about it via Michael Hyatt. I have listened to lots of his podcasts, and especially one of them which he discontinued at some point. And there I learned quite a lot. And I'm also using his tools like the Full Focus Planner, which is really nice kind of calendar, but also to-do list and goal setting, and has lots of his advice and recommendations in it. And so one of which is how to start your week. And we'll talk a little bit about his advice, but also a couple of other things. Sam, do you have standard way how you start or finish your weeks?
Yeah, the way I like to start my week is actually I like to start it on Sunday evening.
Yep.
So I like to sit down in my office and take out my planner and open my calendar and think about how the previous week went. Think about what things might have not been finished that I wanted to get finished, and then lay out the plan for the coming week.
Yep.
And that when I do that, the week generally goes a lot better. Now I have to admit, I don't always do that every week, but when I do it, the week tends to go fairly well.
Yeah. It's a good habit. And I know some people do it on a Monday morning, others do it like you on a Sunday evening. I'm more kind of Sunday is still kind of weekend and family time approach. So I start the Monday morning. But for me, it's also easier to start with the Monday morning because I sit in Europe. And so Monday morning, my US colleagues are still sleeping. So I don't get interrupted by meetings. And that's really important because that is one of the first advice that I have. Don't directly get into meetings at the beginning of the week, because I think that is a good recipe for completely derailing your week and kind of, starting off the wrong foot at the beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of like the analogy is starting a really rigorous exercise routine without taking time to warm up and stretch. You're likely just to stress yourself out, and you might be able to perform pretty well. You could probably go out and do your exercise, but then you're going to hurt later.
Yes. Same as with emails and other things. Yeah. At the start of the week, it's good to kind of get reconnected to where you want to go ultimately. And so my first step, like actually every day, is review my annual goals. I've them written down. That's the first page actually of the planner. And that keeps me focused on what I really want to achieve this year. And that directly kind of makes sure that you're working on the right stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I like to do that too. Although I admit sometimes I'm a little bit more focused on what needs to get done this week or, right away. But stepping back to think about, well, what is it I want to accomplish in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or even longer? If you don't make time for that, you don't put it in your plan, it may not happen.
Yeah. And then you get to your mid-year review, you open up your files where you have saved your yearly goals and I wanted to get this done.
Yeah. And suddenly your yearly goal becomes a 6-month goal.
Yeah.
Because you said that's what you were going to do for the year.
Yeah. The second thing, what you already mentioned, is to have a look into what has happened last week, especially in terms of your achievements. Yeah, I think it's really good to think about what you have accomplished that gets you in a good position. You see what you have already, moved you forward and towards your goals, and that's a great thing, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and I think that's another way just to kind of evaluate maybe how you're doing at planning your time and organizing yourself. Because if you didn't get much accomplished the previous week, you didn't make steps forward towards those goals, that may just be a signal to say, I need to reorient myself and be a little bit more focused on what's important to me and important to my work and family and so on. Because otherwise you're just going to keep spinning your wheels and not making any progress forward.
Yep. And exactly, because that helps you to understand which of your habits that you hopefully have in place helps you to move forward, and what are kind of other things. Yeah. Were there certain kind of one-time events, or does it more look like that these, what you thought of as one-time events, are actually reoccurring events?
Yeah, I mean, there are weeks where all your plans and goals just get completely blown up by life and circumstances. And those can be sometimes very frustrating, but it's good to think about, well, what can I do that might mitigate that happening? Did things blow up because I didn't take care of business the previous week? That type of thing. The other thing I like to do too, and it helps me focus my mind a little bit, is I have over here on the side on my wall on my board here that I have kind of my list of, I guess what I would call my principles, the things that I've decided are important to me.
Yeah.
And those are even a little bit higher than what my goals are. Those are like, why am I doing what I'm doing? What are the overall big picture focus that I want to have in my life? And I'll look over there and I'll think about it and say, okay, this week I need to make sure that my focus, what I'm working on, is being guided by that set of principles that I've decided are important to me.
Yeah, that is actually also something that I have as part of my weekly routine, looking into my leadership principles. What I have is actually my background on my laptop is a collage of photos that reflect my long-term goals that I have. So, for example, there's a photo of my family, because having good relationships there is really important for me. And there's some other photos that reflect, long-term goals on there.
Right.
So next thing, so once you have evaluated how you need to, change, continue, adopt certain habits, you can have a look into what are all the existing to-dos. Are there any open loops? Are there any kind of things where someone told you, yeah, I'll follow up by Friday, but you never received something?
Right. And what do you mean by open loop? Is that an example of an open loop? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Something like it's not finished. It's kind of hanging in the air.
Yeah. You're waiting on something, or someone's waiting on you.
Exactly.
That type of thing. Okay.
Yeah. Because that helps you to kind of get a really good overview of what are the possible to-dos for this week. Yeah. Next thing is for me looking into the calendar a little bit ahead, not just the coming week, but the coming weeks, potentially months. Yeah. So are there any certain bigger events that are happening? Don't know. You need to give a presentation in 2 weeks, or there's a conference happening in 3 months, or things like that, or a certain deadline is approaching.
I'm going to go on holiday, right? and honestly, that's a big thing. I never work harder than the week before holiday, because I don't want to have all that work piled up when I get back, and I don't want to be worrying about it while I'm gone. So usually I work pretty hard the week before I take time off.
Yeah. And that can lead you also to detect further to-dos. Or maybe it means that you get a different prioritization of the to-dos that you have. Yeah, because now you think, this becomes really urgent now. And this other thing, maybe I can push it out a little bit more. Now, the next topic is really important for me, because if you have these really long list of to-dos, you know that you'll never get all of them done. So it's good to make sure you get 3 big rocks into your week that are rocks in terms of achievements. Yeah, things that you want to move forward, that help you move towards your goals, and have your weekly big 3s.
Yeah. And I do that too, but sometimes my big rocks are actually consist of a lot of little rocks.
That is usually the case. Yeah.
So I think about what are the 5 simple things I need to do to move to that next step. Yeah. I sometimes when I lay that out, and I'll lay that out, say I need to do these things, 3 of those this week, and they may only take 5 minutes, but I got to get them done, or things aren't going to move forward.
Yeah. It could be like this week I'm recording 4 episodes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or it could be like this week I want to finish this presentation. Yeah. And in order to do this, I first need to do my research. Then I need to, have an outline. Then I need to create the slides, send it to my AA, review it, and then it's done. Yeah, so kind of these different steps in it.
Yeah, and if you're applying, good project and work planning approaches, generally every project or everything you have that has a deliverable or a timeline has a series of things that have to be done. And what you try to do in your planning in the week is let's pick some of those things and fit them into the week so that I can move those things forward. And sometimes in parallel, you got different things happening at the same time. So you've got to not just have this singular focus. I'm just doing a presentation this week. You've got 5 other things that probably have to be done in the next few weeks, and you kind of have to move them all forward. And so you have to fit all of those small things and pick which ones you're going to do to move things forward. But I understand what you're saying about the big things. It's really focusing on what are the big 3 things I want to accomplish, and what are the things I can do this week to move those forward.
Yeah. And that is important to do it after you already had a review of your calendar. Yeah, because if, let's say, there's already 2 full day events in it, and maybe there's one day where you don't know, you're traveling, and another day where you promise to, go to Legoland with your kids or something like this. Well, maybe there's not a lot of, open space left.
And that's a big, we probably could have a whole nother podcast on that, just on managing time and not filling up your time. I was thinking about that in preparation for talking about this, where I try to make sure I keep some white space in my calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually block out white space. Yeah. So, and breaks. Yeah. So, for example, no meetings before a certain time or after a certain time, or no meetings over lunch. Yeah. Just to ensure that you don't end up with a calendar that has 40 meetings in it.
Yeah. And it's really hard. I found that's really hard when you work internationally.
Yes.
Because of the different time zones. And like you said, your call, if you have colleagues that are in another continent, you may have to jam all your meetings into your afternoon, and they have to jam all of their meetings into their morning.
Yeah.
And their preference may be to have their morning open you
can't have it all. Yeah.
You can't have it all, right? I used to struggle with that quite a bit and get frustrated. It's
important to set boundaries there. It's really important. Yeah. If you don't set these boundaries, there's nobody else who will do it for you.
Right. And you end up having 6 a.m. phone calls or 7 p.m. phone calls. And that you can do that occasionally, but if that becomes a habit and that becomes the routine, it just jumbles your life. And it's not fun.
At Lilly, I had this M5 rule. There's no meeting after 6 p.m. unless an M5 asks for it. And there was
and that's like a senior vice president or something like that, you guys.
Yeah, something like really, really high in the organization. That really helped. Yeah. And people were, accepting these boundaries. I recently read a quote about something like, I don't get it right, but something along the lines, it's your choice to, control what others are doing to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you don't always have complete control, right? You may be in a situation where you have to attend a meeting, you have to do something at a specific time, but where you have control, exert your control. I think that's the thing. Don't let all of your time be dominated by everybody else in your life.
And there's, if you think about this M5 rule, that was something like even if my step supervisor would have called, I would have said no.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could be polite about it. You can always say,
it's not a no.
Yeah.
It's a sorry, but I already have an appointment with my family there that I can't move. Here's another suggestion for a time.
Yeah. Could we talk about it the following morning or something like that? That's always a good way to offer an.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking about calendar, the next thing is clean up your calendar. I usually have some, meetings that popped in there that, overlap or that there's something else happening. So making sure, there's no clashing meetings and things like this is really important. I find it really annoying when people decline a meeting, just before it starts. Yeah, especially these one-to-ones. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Or meetings get canceled. That the people will just schedule meetings because they're going to block your time.
Yeah.
But then they don't have anything to talk about, so then they cancel it. Well, that can be a little irritating when you have planned your time to be able to be ready to talk to them.
Yeah.
And so what I've found is a good habit to get into is have my little list of things that I can do when I get a little block of time opened up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
because oftentimes I've prepared myself mentally to do something during that, talk during that time, and I haven't planned to work on maybe a deeper thinking type of project. So maybe it's okay, that's the time for me to respond to emails. That's the time for me to read an article that I've been waiting to read and it's sitting on my desk, so fill in that time and just don't get upset about it as much as being proactive and saying, okay, now I have this time, let's use it because someone's giving me back some time that they had scheduled away from me originally.
Yeah, but it's also kind of cleaning up calendar also means like this meeting in there where I actually have no clue what's about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for an agenda.
Right. Or just send a message. Hey, I see this meeting's coming up on Thursday and I'm not exactly sure what the meeting's about. And I'm not clear if I need to be there or not.
Yeah.
Right. Lots of times you'll find out you'll find out, we just included you because we thought you'd want to know. And if you have time, you can join and you can just read the meeting notes afterwards and get the same amount of information.
Exactly. Yeah. I once had a reminder in my calendar popping up. Meetings are toxic. Try to avoid them.
What was it? I remember one time one of my kids asked me, Dad, what is it you do for work? And I'd had a day that had been full of meetings, back to back to back meetings. And I was really frustrated. And I sat down at the kitchen table and I said, well, evidently my job is to go to meetings. That's all I do. And kid, my daughter looked at me really funny, like, wow, is that what adult life is really like?
You know what my favorite meetings are? The meetings that I schedule with myself, which I actually have on my calendar. And one of these is actually this Monday morning meeting where I go through these different things. Yeah. And in order to reinforce your habit that you want to develop, you can put in kind of these different things that you want to do. Yeah. And into that invite for yourself. Yeah. So make it really easy. One of the things if you want to have an habit, you need to have a trigger that triggers this habit, and also make it as easy as possible. So if you write into your invite, what are the different things that you want to do, kind of like a review of annual goals and things like this, just put it in there.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great thing. When you schedule a meeting with yourself with an agenda, it really can help your time with yourself be more productive as well.
So just head over to the blog article for this episode, the show notes, and you'll find there bullet points that you can just copy over and then adapt for yourself.
So let me ask you a question. This is a little bit off topic, but it relates to planning and how you plan your week. Is you use the Hyatt planner, right? The Michael Hyatt planner. Do you prefer paper or do you prefer electronic planner?
I prefer hybrid.
Okay.
So I used both. I have used both only paper in the past. I've used only an electronic, but I have figured that the best way is to have a hybrid model. So certain things are great to manage electronically, kind of, especially things like group tasks and certain things like this. Yeah. Others, like the exact things that I have on my to-do list for today, I have written down in paper, because then they sit on my desk and they don't get kind of hidden behind another window or something like this. I see them there all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I can remember the day before we had the inundation of electronic communication and scheduling tools, and you pretty much did all of it on paper. You had to. Yeah. I used to use the Franklin planner before it became Franklin Covey. It was Franklin planner, and I really liked that system. And then they came out with a software tool that you could do it on the computer, and I really like that too. and it integrated with Outlook a little bit. But I have gotten more in the habit. I'm like you. I like to do my goal planning, personal planning, daily planning on paper. And then I keep my calendar and appointments electronically.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of the stuff I do is also captured in email and other electronic systems. But there's something, I don't know, there's a connection that happens when I take a pencil or a pen and I write it on paper. It's almost like I'm more committed to doing it than if I just type on my keyboard.
And especially if you take a to-do from the last week and you write it on your to-do list for this week, and you have already moved it from the previous week to last week, you get really annoyed that you kind of need to rewrite it, and maybe you just then do it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you have it electronically, it's just a click away. Yeah. And so there's also you maybe more consciously think about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I once had this habit of tagging the emails where I needed to do something. That's really bad because you don't think about really what you need to do. Yeah. And so then you later need to go in it, read the email again and think like, what was I supposed to do? Yeah. And sometimes you just think, yeah, I need to do something there, but you don't think about what is exactly the next step. Yeah. And maybe the exactly next step only takes you 2 minutes to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And then I have this 2-minute rule that these things get done directly. I don't write them down as to-dos.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's also some good advice I've learned is to hold your plans loosely because like you said, something's going to blow up your week or whatever your schedule is for the day. And you got to be really ready to adjust. But as much as it's up to you, stay focused on what you decided what to do. But then don't get too burned out or too upset when somebody else or some other event causes all those plans to go down the tube.
Yeah. It's important to plan, but of course, so if you don't plan, you plan to fail. Mm-hmm. But planning helps you to not fail.
Not planning is a plan. It's just not a very good plan. And I think the other thing too, and you mentioned this a lot, in your plans, we're not just talking about work.
Yeah.
We're talking about life.
Yeah.
So you've got your priorities. If you have a family, your family's got to be priority.
Yeah.
They need to be on there. Matter of fact, that's generally the first thing I write in my plan for the week. What is it that I'm doing with and for my family?
Yeah.
Exercise and taking care of yourself, your health. I try to get regular exercise. So that's the second thing I write in my plan for the week. Yeah. When I'm going to do that. And then I start thinking about, okay, then what's the work things that I need to accomplish this week?
Absolutely. Put in the big rocks first and then fill in the pebbles. So we talked about how to effectively start your week. We talked about what not to do, like going directly into meetings or emails, but have an understanding of what are your goals. Where have you been coming from last week? What have been your achievements? What can you adapt? Are there any kind of open to-dos, the loose ends, the open loops that you need to close? And then plan ahead, with weekly big three, daily big three, and things like this, and make it a habit. So really head over to theeffectivestatistician.com and find the show notes and copy them onto your invite to yourself. Thanks so much, Sam. Another great episode.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's great to talk. And I hope this is an encouragement to people to spend some time on helping them wanting to be more effective.
This show was created in association with PSI. Thanks to Rain, who helps with the show in the background, and thank you for listening. Sharing is caring. So if you found this episode to be useful for you, then please share it with your colleagues. Please share it on social media. And if you share it on LinkedIn, then just tag me and I'll surely get back to you and give you a hands up for this. Reach your potential, lead great science, and serve patients. Just be an effective statistician.